Hi everyone, hello, how are you? I hope that you're all well. I hope that your day's been brilliant. Mine has. I told you yesterday I was really looking forward to today and it has been amazing. I've had such a productive day. It's been brilliant. I've gone out for walks, I've chatted with family abroad, I've got loads of work done, had a wonderful meal, had one of my favourite meals. For those of you that watch my lives, you'll know that food, I love food. I talk about food sometimes. So it's been a wonderful day so far. Hiya! Hey Lorraine, thanks for joining. So yeah, it's been a beautiful day. How's your day been, Lorraine? I hope it's been amazing and wonderful. Isn't the weather beautiful here in London? I know that there's loads of you from other countries. And thank you for participating on the post that has all the different countries. I'm so chuffed to see the amount of different countries that are represented within this group. It's amazing. But yeah, here in London, it feels like summer is actually here. The sun is out, it's blazing, it's warm, everyone's happy. Yeah, it's live right now, so it's good. Good things are happening. So it's been a beautiful day. I went for a lovely walk. I have like a ritual that after I eat, I go for like a digestive walk, and it's great because it's just getting fresh air and doing something a bit different that just breaks up the day a bit. So I went for a lovely walk. It was really nice. The weather is just beautiful and all the blossoms are out, and I love me a bit of floral. So yeah, it's great. I've got no complaints. So I hope your day's also been wonderful. So today I want to talk about IR35 because we've got several of our newer members have really said that they're worried about IR35, and so I know I've covered this a little bit before when I did, it was about a month ago, I did a video on it. I can't remember the date. I think it might have been 27th of April. I can't remember. But you can look through the videos. If you go to the left of the group, you'll see kind of down the side there are different things, files, resources, videos, announcements, different things, and you can look in there for the videos and have a look. Hey Lorraine, you said you're in Yorkshire. It's beautiful. I love Yorkshire. Oh my gosh, I've been to Yorkshire in Walsden and I stayed with some friends and we went for an amazing walk and the views are stunning. It's so hilly and beautiful. I'm jealous that you live there, Lorraine. I went for a walk, but you know, it wasn't as grand as Yorkshire Hills. It's absolutely beautiful in Yorkshire. So, and you've been to Alton Towers. Wow, very nice. Lovely. Well, I'm sure you had a wonderful day. It was a beautiful day for it. It didn't rain, so I'm sure you had a fabulous time. That's amazing. I'll post a picture of what I took when I went to Yorkshire so you can see the view. It is amazing, beautiful place. So you live in a beautiful area in England. It's not as built up like round here. So yeah, so I was saying that some of our newer members in the group are, you know, queried about IR35 and kind of are fed up of it really. So yeah, I touched on it a little bit. I think it was 27th of April, so you can find the video and have a look. I touched on that, but I'm going to talk in a bit more detail about IR35. So for those of you that are not in the UK, you'll be thinking IR35, what's that? So I'm going to explain what it is and where it's come from and why it's an issue for social workers. And I'd love to hear from those of you that are in other countries. I know Conrad is in the Philippines and he talks about how wonderful social workers are revered and held in high esteem. And I'm really interested to know if there are any barriers for social workers and whether they have any struggles with practice and any legalities that kind of stop them from doing what they want to do to become independent. I'd be interested to hear that. I know that Treasure and June have spoken about in South Africa there are some barriers and it's really difficult, and so I'm really interested to hear legislatively, you know, what those barriers are and kind of how it stops you. So I'm going to talk a little bit about how it stops us in the UK and the issues that social workers here in the UK are having. So hey Selena, thanks for joining. So I guess IR35, let's start from the beginning because that's always a good place to start. So IR35, the term in itself, it was first came in by Gordon Brown, kind of gave an address to the nation. He did a press release and it was the 35th press release, and it was on the budget statement. So that was in, I think it was in April or September. I know those months are like way apart, but it was definitely in 1999. And so he gave this press release. It was the 35th press release. And the IR bit stands for Inland Revenue, because they were the ones, obviously it came from, you know, the monies and the tax and stuff like that. We now know it as HMRC, Her Majesty's, you know, Inland Revenue. So IR35, that's what the IR35 stands for. That's where the IR comes from, Inland Revenue. And so it was the 35th press release, so that's where the name comes from, essentially. And now the reason why it was brought in was because the main purpose was about shutting down those that were avoiding tax. Okay. And I said HMRC, I said Her Majesty's Inland Revenue. Her Majesty's Revenues and Customs makes more sense. That's what the RC stands for. I should know that. I do enough tax returns. So yeah, so it was basically brought in to really shut down disguised employees, really. This isn't something that is exclusive to social work, but it certainly hit us quite badly. Well, for those that kind of weren't genuine employees, at least. So it came, you know, it was announced in 99, but it didn't actually come into force until like a year later. But then it wasn't legislated until some time after. You know how it goes. It doesn't always happen straight away. So I would say when I really started noticing a difference was when I was an agency worker. I would say probably 8 years or so now. Well, that's when I really started to notice. Other people may have been noticing it far earlier, for a lot longer. And I know that there were rumblings and stuff like that and discussions about it. But, you know, for me, it didn't really start to have an impact. Hey, Ada! It really didn't start to have an impact until, you know, some time after. So, yeah, that was my experience in terms of when I noticed things. I guess the main thing that I would say that as to why, as I said, it came in was because they wanted to crack down on those people that were presenting themselves as self-employed but weren't really self-employed. And that was a huge thing that was a huge thing in social work. I guess the main reasons why people were doing it was because as an agency worker, as a social worker, we do hard work, right? Everyone knows that. It doesn't matter what country you're from, we work our socks off. And so I guess people thought that it would be great to get paid more, because you get paid more as an agency worker, and you have better tax benefits because you're self-employed. So a lot of your expenses you can put as a tax expense, as a business expense, and so you get tax relief. And then on top of that, there's other ways that you can get paid. So you can get paid as salary or dividend, and a dividend should happen like at the end of the year, but you know, sometimes people take it throughout the year as well. So even if they're not supposed to. So there, you know, that was one of the benefits. And then also sometimes you'd pay little or no NI. That was what was kind of discovered with them kind of cracking down on it. And again, the main things around the tax relief. So you're taking home a lot more. You're getting all the gross and you're managing things yourself with an accountant, basically. And I think I would say that it was probably for some ethical reasons why they wanted to crack down on it. From the point of view from a social work industry, for me, I would say that there was some debate around whether or not, you know, it was fair to do or not. Social workers work hard, whether you're permanent or agency. What I certainly noticed as an agency worker when I first became agency in about 2007, 2008, I noticed that, you know, social workers that were agency would just kind of get left and they'd get dumped on. So there'd be huge caseloads waiting for them as soon as they come. There'd be little support in terms of, well, obviously for legal reasons, because they had their own company, they wouldn't get, you know, sick pay, holiday pay, those kind of things. That's all changed now. But at that time, that is what was happening. And so they'd kind of get dumped on. They'd get all the complex cases, high caseloads. That was like a recurring theme that I was hearing from my colleagues, and kind of I experienced that myself. And I noticed as time went on that the consultants in agencies wouldn't really be that much bothered about you. They wouldn't check in the way they said they would. You know, you'd find it difficult to get hold of them if you were having an issue at work. You were really just kind of left, but they were getting paid for your seat. And so I guess some social workers felt that, well, we deserve to get paid this much then if we're going to be treated like that. But then permanent workers would say, well, look, we work just as hard and yet we're not getting paid that much. So I guess, you know, this legislation that came in really nipped that in the bud and just annihilated everything. And I guess for social workers now, it's become so much of an issue, because what it looks like in real practice is that you can no longer have, you know, your company and go to a local authority, which is like a council here in the UK, that you work with, and get paid directly into your account, into your business account. Well, I know that, as you know, I've been practicing independently, I'd say for, I know I say 5-6 years, but there have been times where I've done it before then. So I was genuinely kind of working independently, and I've been at a couple of councils where I had a direct contract with them. Those days are gone. They won't do that anymore. Now they make you fall within IR35 and they say you are an employee. Even if you negotiate a contract to the contrary, they get the last say, because, you know, they're the ones paying you, basically. So the practicality of what that looks like for us as social workers is that, for those that call ourselves independent but maybe aren't necessarily independent, I guess it's understanding what the terminology is. The terminology of being independent means, you know, hey Paula, that you have, you know, you are a completely independent. And if we put it in social work terms, a bit like, okay, this is probably a bad example, but an independent reviewing officer is somebody who's meant to be independent, but I guess they kind of act for the local authority. So it's kind of like the same thing. But okay, let's put it in terms of an advocate for a child or a family. They have got nothing to do, let's say, with the local authority, but they are genuinely like an independent company, an organisation that's a charity that you know, asked to do a piece of work. They are completely independent. And so effectively, that's what you're supposed to be as a social worker. If you're independent, it means that you have no ties with this local authority or council or place that you're working with, where they kind of are the ones that tell you what you're going to do, when you're going to do it, how you're going to do it, and that they're the only ones that you're working for. That's the crux of it. I'm seeing thumbs up there, so yeah, somebody agrees that the main thing is that, you know, you have got to be independent. Hey Paula, thanks so much for joining. The main thing is that you've got to be showing that you are a genuine contractor and that you have different contracts, different people that are paying you. You've got products that you are providing, you know, and it may be only contract work that you do where you go and do consultancy. I think that's the go-to for social workers who are independent, but actually there's so much more you can do. There are products and services that you can do online and offline, packages that you can sell in different ways. And so, or you can even have other kinds of services like residential units, as well as, you know, doing consultancy for schools or other types of services or local authorities. And then you really become independent. Where it becomes, hey Eric, thanks for joining, where it becomes a sticking point again is where, you know, again, you might be doing all of those things, but then you go to a local authority and they say, well, no, you're still employed. Then it kind of throws up an issue of, okay, well, what do I do tax-wise? That's a whole nother beast. We'll leave that for another live. What I would say, though, is sticking on the independence is understanding what it really means to be independent and getting yourself in a mindset of wanting to be independent and operate independently. I found as a social worker, my 5-6 year journey so far, I've been independent, and I was like literally independent. I literally woke up one day and I said, I've had enough. I can remember working on a report. It was late at night. I always work far from home, and I was just so tired, and I said, I've had enough of this. And I said, I'm handing in my notice, and I handed in my notice literally the next day. And I booked a holiday to St. Lucia for 2 weeks, and I went with my sister, and we went and lived it up in St. Lucia for 2 weeks. And while I was there, I was doing kind of my prep work, to be independent, like just getting my systems in place and organising myself and stuff. And then when I came back on the 1st of August, hey presto, I was independent, and that was it. So I started kind of getting contracts and marketing myself, and I thought that I'd actually be doing work and assessments for local authorities, and none of that happened. I had solicitors contacting me, and they would kind of find my, I don't even know how they found my details. I got my website done really quickly, and people found me via my website. And then a lot of it was then word of mouth. Once I started working with solicitors, they then put me in touch with other solicitors and stuff like that. It all happened like within that year. And my first contract was a contract with a school. They were looking for an independent social worker to do training for their staff and help them with safeguarding systems and doing kind of workshops with their parents and stuff like that. And they chose a number of social workers and selected me. I went and I met with them. I asked them what they needed, what they wanted. And yeah, then I kind of gave them a proposal of what I would charge, and worked, used my formula to work that out. And yeah, and they chose me because they liked that I was flexible. My services were bespoke, which others weren't doing. So that's a pointer. So I've always done it where I've broken the mold, and I've done things very differently to what I've seen other independent social workers doing. And so right from the get-go, it was kind of a different beast for me in terms of I had a very different mindset. However, I would say that I still felt actually, and I learned that I was quite institutionalized. Over that 4 or 5 year period, I realized, having worked as an agency worker and kind of getting dumped on with work and working like a pay train, working late, getting up early, starting early, not having work-life balance, not eating properly or eating the right foods when I was eating, eating on the go, not spending much time with family, just really been tired, fatigued all the time, all those kind of things that are associated with what it's like to be a busy social worker. My biggest thing was giving myself permission to have a break and to watch TV and to relax and go for walks and do things like that. I really struggled the first 3 years or so with that, and it really took time for me to give myself permission to have work-life balance. It was bizarre. I'd feel so guilty. I don't know if anybody here can relate. I don't know if you feel like that sometimes. Some social workers are really good. They've got great work-life balance, even working in statutory. And my experience has been, I started off when I was 20, 21 in statutory social services. And so, I've had years, fast forward 20 years now, I had, well, minus the 6 that I've been independent, but, all that time was really institutionalized, and it just prepped me and primes me to kind of work like that. So it took a while for that to kind of dispel. So going back to, I guess, the IR35 and kind of one of the reasons for me with this whole IR35, that why I wanted to leave agency work, was because I didn't feel I was being supported as an agency member of staff. And as I said, now, fast forward now to where we are, they've made some changes in the regulations, and now agency workers will get holiday pay and sick pay and stuff like that. But that is because if they work for a local authority, they are an employee effectively, so they kind of have to give them those things. And it's non-negotiable, unfortunately. So I guess for me, what I would say there, you've kind of got 4 options to get rid of this IR35. There are 4 options that you've got. Well, yeah, there are 4 options. Well, you've got 3 options if you want to get rid of IR35. And there are 2 options if you're okay with IR35. So I'll start with that first. IR35, you can either work with an agency directly and be their employee, and they will do all the regulation stuff where you get your holiday, sick pay, all that stuff. I think they may have got better now because those regulations are there, with supporting members that are signed up in their agency. Or you can go via an umbrella company. And again, the last live that I did, as I said, a month ago, covered that. And I think there's even a link in the comments box that you can check out. I think it was 27th of April. So those are the 2 options if you want to be in IR35. If you don't want to be in IR35 and you genuinely are fed up of it and you want a way out, you have 3 options. You can either go permanent with a local authority and kind of scrap the whole idea of being independent and having your own organization and stuff like that. Because the reality is, when you're, you know, the work that you do for whether you're permanent or an agency is a lot of work in social work, and you really have little or no time to do anything else other than that. Work wise, you know, the rest of your time really you're spending with family, and you're doing your work-life balance as far as possible. So that's an option, permanency. The other option is to exit social work altogether, and go and do something different. So I've got friends that have gone into filmmaking, that I studied my degree with. Yes, filmmaking. They've gone into law. I've had a friend that's gone into dance, teaching dance and yoga and stuff like that. So something completely different, which may be a hobby or a passion that actually you feel like, yeah, I've done social work for a long time, I want to go and pursue that. And you'll be brilliant at it. So that's another option. Your third option is to become independent, which is what I did. But it does mean a whole mindset change. It does mean a whole mindset change. It means genuinely operating as a business where you develop your niche, know what your niche is. And again, I've done live videos on this, so go and look for that in the video section. Know who your audience is. Why are you serving them? What do you have to offer? Do you have the skill set to offer them what they need? And if not, where can you get that and collaborate to deliver that service? So knowing what your niche is, knowing how you're going to provide services and what you're going to provide to meet those needs, and having a structure and systems in place to deliver that. So what is the method? Is it online? Is it offline? Is it a bit of both? You've got to have a very clear structure. You've got to know how to market yourself, how to network, and you definitely have got to think outside the box and be creative. And not get stuck in thinking that, well, I'm independent, so all I'm going to do is provide services to local authorities. That's what I thought I was going to do, and that just didn't come my way. And when I tried pursuing it, I remember one local authority contacted me. I'm going to give you a really funny story, and if you don't laugh out loud or fall off your seat, I'll be surprised. But this local authority contacted me. I won't mention, of course, which local authority it was. And they wanted me over a Christmas period, 2-week Christmas period. And bear in mind, it was short notice. They wanted me to go in to see this family that is an hour and a half away from my office. And they want me to see this family every day over the Christmas and the New Year period, and a bit before and a bit after. It was about 2-week period. And they wanted me to obviously write case notes. There was kind of safeguarding complex issues. And I think it was because they were so concerned and the allocated social worker was not around. And they wanted to kind of gather evidence because they were in proceedings. Proceedings, for those of you that aren't in the UK, just means where the local authority has got so much concerns that they are kind of applying to the court to discuss and apply to be able to remove the child from the care of the parents. So they were so concerned, they wanted me to do these visits. And so when I put in my proposal of what that would cost, and I gave a breakdown of what it would cost and why and all those kind of lovely things, they refused it. And they wanted to pay me like £500 for that whole piece of work. I can't say it without laughing, because that is so laughable, and it included Christmas Day and New Year's Day going to visit their family that were like an hour and a half away from me. I still laugh today because I just think they're crazy. They're absolutely crazy. They are absolutely bonkers. And I just was so insulted by that, because I thought, you are taking the mickey, love. That's what I thought. I didn't say that obviously in an email over the phone. I would have liked to. But I thought that, isn't that crazy to expect? That was like at least, that was a minimum of a third of what I was saying it was going to cost. Their budgets and their thought process was just, they want you to give the maximum performance with the least amount of financial backing. And that is the way that they kind of work, don't they? I mean, I've experienced it where, families have had needs and we could be paying, to help the family, to assist them, do an assessment and let them carry on. But they wouldn't do that. But then for other families, they'd be paying travel expenses for families to get to and fro the office, and they're paying for this and paying for that. And it's just, I don't know how they figure it out sometimes. But yeah, it's crazy. So, you know, that was my experience with them. And I just think they don't know how to always think outside the box. And I think part of that is about management. And I think part of that is about, you know, the actual local authority and where they are financially and with their budget and whatnot. But, you know, we as an independent social worker, you really have to get out of the idea that the people that you are going to be serving is the local authority, because really they're not the people that you're trying to reach. Lorraine has said, IR35 has absolutely destroyed my income in previous years. I've found I've had to tender for work as an independent. Yeah, tendering, Lorraine, is another thing that people do. But again, it's fixed with the local authority and the competition is fierce. I've looked at tendering before because I've had colleagues that I have a strategic alliance with. A colleague that does childhood trauma, and another colleague who deals with domestic violence. She's a domestic violence survivor, and we were going to tender to a borough on. They had a project on domestic violence needing to be delivered, workshops and stuff, and that's kind of my area. That's one of my areas of specialism, and which I really like, that domestic violence and stalking. And I've got kind of training that I've done for solicitors on there. And, you know, we were going to tender, and looking at the process, it's like there's so much red tape and hoops. I thought, blimey, I thought getting a bit of Section 17 money was hoops enough. But that really, it's very bureaucratic. And I know that there have been changes there so that it's fair across the board, so that everybody that tenders. But it to me, I'm a believer that it's kind of who you know sometimes in local authorities. I don't know in other countries if it's like that, but I would definitely say there's some of that goes on still. I know that for a fact from kind of local authorities that I've worked in, and people that I've come across. But you know, the competition is really fierce. Hey Dawn, thanks for joining. You know, the competition for tendering is fierce, and I think, you know, it's really slim for if you're going to get tendering, and more power to you, Lorraine, if you've managed to do that, or anybody else, if you've managed to get tendering contracts and stuff, that's great. But it's a lot of work, and again, I feel that, you know, there are hoops that you've got to jump through, and you have to kind of alter things to suit what they want. And that's not necessarily a bad thing, because obviously they know their demographics, you know, of the people that they're serving and what they think will benefit them. But actually, you and I will know from our own practice that what those in the higher echelons believe is good for the service user is not necessarily what is good for the service user when you're working on the front line. And so I feel as though sometimes we're in better positions as frontline workers to say what you know, our clients really need. And when we're tendering, you know, our clients become the local authority. And again, I found that difficult, and I looked at it and I just thought, I can't. Number one, I can't be asked, because I by that stage I'd got into a place where working for myself, you know, I created systems the way I want it. There's no red tape, there's no bureaucracy. You know, they want A, I deliver A and B for them. I give them value on top of what they need, and I show them, you know, how else they can benefit from other things that I have to offer. And there's no red tape. You know, it's discussed, it's written up, it's sent off as a proposal, contracts are signed, and we get started. And it's a swift, quick process and painless. And I looked at it and I just was like, I can't deal with it. I can't deal with it. And then some of the things that they may have wanted was maybe not necessarily as much as I wanted to have delivered more. So yeah, I don't know. I mean, for tendering, there might be other people watching this, and please do comment, you know, if you've also tendered, and how did you find that process? But yeah, again, I feel that it's kind of working for the local authority, and I feel, you know, for you to be really independent and be a real contractor, you've got to be like Joe Bloggs, who's the plumber, who's the, you know, all these different kind of people that provide different services. And even them, they've got to sometimes, you know, well, in trades, you know, they're a dime a dozen, but everybody needs a tradesman, so they'll never be short of work, unfortunately, you know, fortunately for them. But I think as social workers, we can very much be in the same position, because unfortunately we live in a society that are full of social ills and social society problems. So I think there are huge margins and opportunities for us to bridge the gap where local authorities don't have services to refer to, and where, you know, clients, you know, don't have a place that they can self-refer to. So I think it's about us thinking outside the box and creating services. But again, that comes with understanding what is my skill set, what is my value, what am I good at, what do I want to do, what's my passion, what do my clients need, and how can we, you know, how can we combine, and how can I provide them a service? And it starts from there, and then you build your niche. Having a niche is imperative in business. That's the same for every business. What is different? What's going to make you stand out? Why are you going to be the go-to person? So, Lorraine, in the area that you tendered in, whatever the specific area, there might be other social workers that do a similar thing. So what's going to be different about what you provide? When the school picked me out of the other 3 independent social work, and some of those organizations were bigger organizations than me, they weren't necessarily one-man bands at all. I was a one-man band at that point. You know, I was literally, in fact, I was negotiating with them while I was in St. Lucia on holiday by the beach. So I hadn't even, you know, started independent. I hadn't even, you know, yet registered the company. So, you know, when I got back, that was like the first thing that I did. So, yeah, I changed the name and everything like that. The company was registered because obviously I'd been an agency worker, but I had to change the name. So it was, you know, business. It was a new name. So yeah, so you know, they chose me because they said what I was doing was different. It was bespoke. It wasn't the bog standard usual stuff. It was very different in the way I presented it to them, and how I added value and told them where there were loopholes that I could fill for them that they didn't even recognize. So I ended up with like 8 contracts over a 4 or 5 year period with that school, you know, and did so much things for them. So, you know, you've got to think about what is going to be different. What are you going to provide that people will gravitate to you and say, you know, I need Lorraine, I need Dawn, you know, I need, who else? Selena, I need, who else is on here? Ada, I need Paula, I need Eric. You know, that's what you've got to think about, and you really have to get into a business mindset and almost become uninstitutionalized. And because you're valuable, you know, what you've got and your skills, all the years and the skills, you can do amazing things, but you need to be able to be willing to take that step. And it doesn't mean you have to, I'm not advocating necessarily, hey Paula, thanks for joining. I'm not necessarily advocating for you to just jump ship like me, because I'm very much kind of like that. I'm like, that's what I want, boom, I'm gone. And I think about the details sometimes on the way, you know. I don't advocate for that all the time. So, but you know, that's what I did. And like 6 years, I'm going to be going to my 6th year come August. I'm still here and I'm still doing pretty good. Still doing pretty good. I can tell you I've earned a lot of money independent. And it's not just about the money, but it's about the fact that I've had work-life balance. I've been able to deliver and go over and above, you know, without being criticised, without thinking, oh God, I've got too much of a caseload. I'm getting paid my worth while I'm delivering huge value to the people that I serve. So it's a win-win-win situation, and that's what you guys should have. Lorraine said the process is so long and dictatorial. My background is mental health. Okay, so yeah, so that's the tendering is a long and dictatorial and I believe it is, because when I looked at it, I was like, it was like a few pages just to read what they wanted, and that wasn't even the application. I looked at it and I was like, no, thank you. I would prefer to do 5 assessments than do that tendering. So I take my hat off to you, Lorraine, for even doing them. And your background's in mental health, so there are huge things that you could do. Child mental health is a huge thing. Where is the gap right now for children, boys in particular, that may not access or may not get noticed with their mental health difficulties? What is the age group that kind of fall out of the system? You can create a whole service specifically for those people, for that client group and their parents. So you've got 2-pronged. You could have services for the child directly, you can do services for the family, or services for the parents. And again, it can be online, offline, it can be a bit of both. There are loads of things that you can do within mental health, period. Whether it's adult mental health is another one. So, you know, you've just got to think outside the box, guys, and think about what you want to do. and it will benefit you, your family, but you know, most importantly as well, it's going to be benefiting more so the people that you are serving. You're going to be providing a better quality and value of service. I can say that hands down. The amount of clients that I've seen when I've gone to do assessments and reports as an expert witness, that's one of my other services that I provide, and I can spend as long as I want with families. Now, granted, I don't intend to spend like two hours with them. My visits are usually an hour and a half, but you know, effectively, I can tell you where I've needed to stay a bit longer and just give some emotional support and give other bits of information. I give you a perfect example. I went to see a client who was immigration issue, separated from her husband. So now, because she was a dependent of him and they've separated because of domestic violence, she's now at risk of being deported. She had depression, she was suicidal, all sorts was going on. So, you know, when I went and I did the report, I was able to do the what needed to be done for the report, but I was able to stay a bit longer and give some aftercare and gave some support. So, you know, I arranged, you know, for other support services. I signposted her to other places. I gave some information about how she can manage the depression and the suicidal ideation, and again signposted and just gave her some emotional support, and she valued that so much. Other families, I've been able to kind of get holidays for them and write to charities and just do the stuff that as social workers, yeah, we do, but sometimes that can get left because we're kind of doing the run around the milling, and these families can get quicker help. And again, there's somebody that they can just pick up the phone and call. I've had other cases where there's been domestic violence and I've been able to risk assess where the solicitor has had no clue about what's going on, and I've been able to bring that to light because I've got the time to spend on the case and dig and, you know, do all the necessary stuff that came along with that, with referrals, you know, coordinating children's services and, you know, and other agencies. You just doing the work that, and I'm not stressed. I can actually spend the time and know that this family has had all of me, you know, unadulterated, focused support, and they've got what they've needed. And so I've been able to step away from that case knowing that I've done the absolute best that I could have done, you know. And I felt that when I was in social work, thanks for the hearts, when I was in statutory social work, I never always felt that at all. And so the, you know, the other benefit apart from the work-life balance and getting paid well and not being stressed and being able to, on beautiful days like this, do work in the park if I want to. I've done that where I've, you know, gone along to the park and written my report in the park. It's just the autonomy is amazing. And days where I just don't fancy doing any work, I don't do any work. I might do work from bed in my pajamas. You know, I can just switch it up the way I want. But, you know, the other thing is that, as I said, it's just the satisfaction of knowing that I've really helped families. And that's brilliant. So that is your third and your final option, is being independent, but understanding what you need to do. And again, you know, I'm putting the nuts and bolts and finishing up the course that I'm going to be launching in October. There'll also be a mini course that you can try as a taster. That's going to be, I think I'll be doing that in September. There's going to be webinars. As I said, I've got other products and services like on domestic violence and stalking, because that is just a subject I love, and done a lot of work with victims and survivors. And so I've created packages where I've delivered that to solicitors. And I did a talk at the legal show last year, and had like a swarm of people follow me back to my stand, and it was predominantly solicitors that were there. And that was brilliant. So those kind of things are going to be going on my website. For those of you that don't know, I'm rebranding. So there's a lot of work going on behind the scenes, as well as finishing up the course. So I've got a lot going on, plus the work. Like when I'm finished here, I'm going to go and finish off a report that I want to just get done, because tomorrow I've got some other things that I want to do. So yeah, it's all fun and games being independent. I love it. I love the working on the business and in the business. I love being the boss, and, you know, making... Yeah, Lorraine, good. I'm glad you feel more motivated, because you can do it. Working in mental health is just, it's broad, and you can niche down and narrow down. And when you narrow down, you have a niche, all your clients will swarm to you. They come and find you. And that's what I learned, even doing my expert witness reports. You know, when I first started out, And this is how I've learned, and one thing that I'm putting in the course where about how to structure your fees. And again, I think I did a live on this, but I used to charge like peanuts when I first started. I did not have a clue. And I remember when I did my first couple of assessments for solicitors, and one of them in particular came back to me and said, Nicole, your reports are excellent. Why are you charging this amount of money? You should be charging like this amount. And I was like, oh, really? Because it was like triple what I was charging. It was crazy. And so as I developed and I learned, and as my kind of name got around, people were swarming to me. And I think part of that was the price and fairness. But even as I've increased my price to more than triple now, what I was charging, people still come to me. I still get solicitors. Like I was in Malaysia for all of January. So I've had one holiday so far and a few more booked to come this year. But when I was in Malaysia for the whole of January, I had a solicitor contact me while I was there. And you know, when you work for yourself, it's always business as usual. So I still responded, and I was, you know, still relaxing and having a lovely time. But I kind of did the quote, and they were like, no, it's urgent. I need to, you know, need you to pick up this case now. And I was like, okay, well, I'm currently on leave. So when I get back in, by that time, I think there was a fortnight left to go, or just over a fortnight. I was like, I will, you know, I either touch base with them then, or I can actually do it via Skype and interview them via Skype. And they were like, no, I really need you to do it face to face. So we'll wait. So they waited for me. And that's happened a few times actually, where, you know, they want me to do the work. They don't want anybody else. I've had guardians also tell me they really love my work when I've done some private work in family law, and they really like my assessments and they want to come to me for the assessments. So, you know, once you have your niche and you know how you work and people come to know you, and I've done a live on that about how you can get people to get to know you and know who you are, even if you're in a small town somewhere in you know, the echelons and the shires of England. You know, what can you do? There's a live on that. Your clients will come and find you. They will come and find you. So Lorraine, I'm glad that you feel more motivated. Start putting pen to paper, look through, watch all the videos that I've done, and start putting pen to paper and do the homework, and start putting the nuts and bolts together. And yeah, just continue to engage and feed, and that's same for all of you. And just start planning and start doing stuff, start taking small steps and taking action, because that's what's going to actually make a change in your life. We're really good as social workers and talking about the issues, but we're not necessarily so good at starting to take action. And I was guilty of that. I was planning independence for 2 or 3 years before, hey Colin, before actually taking a step. I was doing a lot of stuff in the background. I had a folder, I was seeing a business mentor, so I was serious about it. But the reality is work was work, and it was hard to really get started and to start moving forward and really pushing it forward. I was doing lots of little bits and grabbing here and there and creating a folder, because that's like my system and my organization, but I just wasn't really moving. Nothing was actually happening where I was stepping over the threshold into independence. So, you know, again, this community and this group is about you feeling supported. It's about you getting the information that's going to help you. And as I said, I've got things that are coming that are going to help you. So if you're not already on my mailing list, you know, people that are on my mailing list are going to be the first to know about products, services, discounts, events, all those kind of things. So if you're not, if you haven't shared your email, you can DM me. You don't have to put it on kind of like on the group, obviously, but DM me and I'll add you to the mailing list, and you'll be the first to hear about things, including kind of the course that's going to be coming. Because I know social workers struggle with this. I've worked in 11 local authorities across the UK. I know how hard. Hey Lisa, thanks for joining. I know how hard, you know, social workers are finding it, and they want to. Most social workers that want to do something different within the industry just don't know where to start or how to start. And so with the experience and all what I've done, I've put that together in a course. I'm glad, Lorraine, good. I'm glad it's got you thinking. You know, I've put it together in a course, and I'm on a mission to help at least 100 social workers this year, 2019, with becoming independent. And it doesn't mean that they have to be wholly independent this year, but it's about them actually making real changes and starting that process and actually progressing and seeing progress and having a finish and end line. So I'm super excited. Guys, you don't know how hard I'm working in the background. Yes, you can be added, Lorraine. Just DM me your email and I'll add you to my mailing list. How can I send you? On my website, I have a pop-up. I tell you what, I'll DM you a link that you can get where you can put your details and it will go into my system. I have an automation customer relations system that I use. I'm all about systems. I love systems. I should be a mathematician, but I'm really rubbish at maths. And I think I should be a mathematician because I like systems and I like paperwork, not kind of social work paperwork to the level that we have it, but I like things like that. I like journals and planners and stuff like that. And I'm creating some of those things actually. So guys, you don't know how hard I'm working. I'm doing so much stuff and I'm bursting at the seams with excitement of the things that are coming your way. I'm so excited. I'm going to contain myself. So anyway, so yeah, I will do that and I'll send you that info and then you can add. And just finally, before I wrap up and go, my lives is not meant to be this long. They're meant to be no more than half an hour, but sometimes I do waffle and ramble on. I like to tell a good story. So this is the last for me. So as you know, for those of you that are in England, I'm doing a networking event. I'm doing, I think this is our third. I was doing it bi-monthly, but it's so much work I'm doing because of all the other stuff I'm doing. I'm going to make it quarterly. And so that information has already gone out to people on my mailing list. So it's going to be quarterly. So that's going to be 4 for the year. So the next one is on the 28th, Tuesday, 28th of May this month, which is next week Tuesday at 7 p.m. in Holborn. It's a networking event that you've never been to. It's exclusive for social workers. There's nothing like it out there. The agenda is fun and frolics. So we're going to be listening to music, we're going to be playing games, we're going to be eating and drinking, we're going to be having lively discussion, we're going to be networking, and we're going to be hearing from a speaker. So it's going to be jam-packed. It's only 2.5 hours and I am thinking about extending it, but I'm still getting feedback from people to see what they would like. So I tailor it for what social workers like. But it's a networking event that's like no other. So you can probably use it for CPD, for HCPC as well, because you will be learning things, but you're going to be learning and having fun. And it's an evening, 7 p.m. to 9:30. So you're going to be able to let your hair down and it's going to be a nice interruption to the week. So again, if you'd like information on that, there's a flyer and I think a link in there. But yeah, I would encourage you to come along especially if you're in London. Make it possible. Try and get out from work early and come along. You've got to book a ticket because it's a catered event. And so I need the numbers and need to know who's coming to make sure that the people are going to do the right amount of food. Because the worst thing will be is that there's not enough food. Because when I get let loose on the food, as it is, I'm going to have to contain myself. So I don't want to run out of food, okay? And drink. So with that said, I'm super excited, and yeah, just have a beautiful evening, whatever you do, wherever you are in the world. And I hope others have felt motivated and inspired by it, and I'm excited about supporting you and holding your hand on this journey of you becoming independent too and experiencing what I'm experiencing, because I want everyone to feel this way. I want all social workers to feel this happy about where they are in life and in their career. So thank you so much for joining, and I will speak to you guys tomorrow at 8 p.m. Bye.